All right, so now we're going to talk about goals. And we're going to do it kind of in a unique little way here. First thing I want to do is, how many of you have seen The Secret? The movie The Secret? Great, most of you? Great. And basically, The Secret is based on a book called The Science of Getting Rich, which was written in, I think, 1903 by Wallace D. Wattles. And I strongly recommend finding that book. You can actually get it online for free and download it as a PDF file at thescienceofgettingrich.net. It's a great book. You just understand that the language is kind of archaic in it. It's kind of old, but the message is still extremely valuable. And if you see The Secret, it starts off with a blonde Australian lady. She gets that book and she's paging through it. It was The Science of Getting Rich. That was the book that she was paging through. The Science of Getting Rich actually has a lot more to it than The Secret, because The Secret just basically says, focus on what you want and it'll magically show up. And that's kind of missing a few things, because there's a little bit more to it. There's a few things that are required beyond that. And we're going to talk about that first. But I do want to talk about the law of attraction, because what you do focus on is what you create. And I totally got this in 1977, October of 1977, on a Thursday that I will never forget, as long as I live. I was working at a radio station, KPRI, here in San Diego. Not the KPRI that's there now in Encinitas, but it was this alternative rock station. We played just the most bizarre stuff all the time. And I was a production assistant. It was my job to just come in and transfer the commercials to the type of format that we used and do all that stuff. Cut out stuff, just do little production stuff. And one of the things that I did was we did this show called Thursday Night Live. And every Thursday night we would air a concert, uninterrupted, no commercials, no nothing. And where we got this concert was we would rip it off from the King Biscuit Flour Hour. And the station actually bought the King Biscuit Flour Hour, and we aired it with all their promotions and commercials. But then after we aired it, sometime later, then we'd cut out all their stuff and then just run it. And it was my job to cut all that stuff out. Well, I went into work this one Thursday night, and we were going to run this Lynyrd Skynyrd live. And I get into work, and I had already cut all the stuff out of the Lynyrd Skynyrd King Biscuit Flour Hour. It was all set to go. It was all loaded on the machine. And I walk in, and the DJ just looks totally pale. And he says, "This just came over the wire. Lynyrd Skynyrd's plane crashed a few hours ago. And what do we do?" And I said, "Well, you're asking me what to do? And I'm just the 18-year-old production assistant. I don't know what to do." There was no one else there, so it was at night. He said, "Well, I think that we should just air it as planned. People are going to think that we're airing it because their plane crashed, but it's scheduled to air, so let's just air it." And he said, "You want to know what's really creepy about this?" And he went, they had just released an album 3 days earlier called Street Survivors. That was the name of it. He said, and it just had arrived at the radio station. And he pulled it out and he said, "Here's their album that just came out." Oh, wow. That is the cover of Street Survivors, the original cover of the Lynyrd Skynyrd album, Street Survivors. And shortly after, the record label immediately pulled this cover and then released a similar pose, but all surrounded in black. Now, this guy, I only have been able to identify one of the people. I've searched to try to figure out who these guys are, but see this guy in the middle who's kind of on fire? He is one of the guys that passed away. His name was Gaines. The lead singer, the guy who sang Freebird and Sweet Home Alabama and all the songs, died that night. And a lot of weird things happened that came out that I've only recently found out. Not only, they crashed in a swamp, and a couple of them they were all very injured. The pilot died, the co-pilot was seriously injured, but a couple of the band members were able to walk, and they were injured. And they got through the swamp, they got out on the street, and they tried to flag someone down. And this guy saw them and saw these people that just looked like hell, trying to, and this guy shot one of them in the shoulder. Can you believe that? Talk about a bad night. So what we focus on, be really careful about what you put out there to the universe. Be really, really careful. I got it that night when Ern Gladden was the name of the DJ. He went on, his air name was Ernesto. And he showed me that. Oh my God. So they talk about, yeah, just focus on these great things. And it's true. Focus on great things, because that's what happens if you don't. Now, let's just kind of take a deep breath and relax, because we're not going to focus on anything negative anymore. I just wanted to show you an example of what can happen. So we don't want, none of you are going to be putting this out there, I hope, okay? So let's talk about things that I've put out there. Really strange things. I was actually reading a lot of stuff about this back, I don't know if I told you or not, but after I broke my back, before I got back to working in the real world, I decided to do something really odd. And so I worked for a cruise line for 6 months. And I wanted to just, before I got back into the real world, I wanted to do something really strange. Actually, I'm just now reminded of something else that happened. Be careful what you put out there, because I had this cat named Gandalf, and I had him stay with a couple friends of mine while I was on the cruise line. And I sent them a postcard from some port that I was in. And unfortunately, Gandalf passed away while I was gone. And the day after he passed away, my postcard arrived, and it said, "I hope you haven't killed my cat yet." It's actually pretty amusing if you know Gandalf. He was a very good soul. It was his time. You know, he was kind of an old guy. But just be careful about what you put out there. Well, I was working on the cruise line. I was looking through all these books, and it was talking about some of this stuff. I had some Tony Robbins material and whatever. So I began focusing on what I wanted, and I really wanted a new Miata when I got back off the ship. So I began focusing on this Miata and the exact color and everything. And I thought about it for a while and really focused on it. And then I thought, I should focus on having some babe in the car too. You know, might as well do that. So I thought about this woman that I'd met a few years earlier, who I really liked, and she just wasn't interested in me for whatever reason. But I really liked her because she was very bright and articulate. She was beautiful, and I just thought that it would be great to have someone like her in the car with me. So I began imagining someone. I imagined her in the car, and focused on that a lot, just so that maybe someone like her would show up. Well, right after I got off the cruise ship, it came time, and I was going through the Auto Trader, and I found this Miata on sale, and it said $11,000. And all the other cars from that year were all like $17,000. I went, oh my God, and I got in the car and raced down to the dealership. And I jumped out, and it said $17,000 on the dash. You know, and so I found a salesman, and I pulled him over, and I said, "You have a lower price advertised in the Auto Trader for this car." He said, "Oh, we'll honor the lower price." So I pulled out the thing and showed him, and he went, it was a typo. And he just turned pale, and I said, "I'll take it." I immediately went and got him a check, and check from the bank. And the owner of the auto dealer was there, and he said, "Well, this is your lucky day. This car is meant to be yours. Okay, we'll honor the price. You know, it was our mistake, and we'll just take it." So I got this car. It was exactly the color I wanted and everything. And so I'm driving this car, and I go out somewhere, and guess who I find? Is this lady named Deborah. And she looked a little bit different. She was just a little bit more outgoing than when I had first seen her. But anyway, I saw her. I said, "Pose with my car. I have my camera. I'd like to take your picture." So there she is with my car. Like I said, she's a little bit more outgoing than she was when I first met her. She had changed a little bit. But at any rate, there she is with my car. I never saw her again. I imagined her with the car. I pictured her with the car, so I have a picture of her with the car. Okay? I should have pictured her with me, not with the car. Another thing that I did was I began doing a dream boards. You ever do that where you cut out all the pictures from magazines and stuff? And I took it one step further. I won the picture of me. I've won 2 Emmy Awards. The regional Emmy Awards. I want a national award for producing a major TV show. And I want a national Emmy. So what I did was I got all these pictures from award ceremonies of people on runways, couples on runways, holding up and all this stuff on the runway. So what I would do is I'd use Photoshop, and I'd Photoshop my face and the guy who was there. And then I'd get a picture of a generic model, some pretty girl, and put her face over the woman who was there, because I didn't want to be there with Sarah Michelle Gellar or whoever the picture was. I wanted to be there, so I had like 50 of these things. So, all these different things all over the place of me on a runway with a pretty girl. Well, on October 26, 2003, San Diego burned down. I don't know if you remember that, but hundreds of thousands of acres burned, and several thousand homes were burned. It was snowing ash, and Qualcomm Stadium became a refugee camp. Everyone went there, and it just turned into a place where people could stay there. Well, the following night, there was supposed to be a Monday night football game there between the Chargers and the Dolphins, and it couldn't take place because the stadium was now needed as a refugee camp. Plus, it was snowing ash. It was so horrible that you couldn't be outside. You weren't supposed to be outside. So they moved the game to Phoenix. At that time, I was still working for Channel 4 here in San Diego. And they called me at 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning saying, "Can you go to Phoenix? We need you to go to Phoenix. We don't know how you're going to get there. All the flights are booked because everyone's trying to get to Phoenix to go to the Charger game. Can you go? Well, you might have to drive. I don't know how you're going to get there." And I said, "Okay." So I scramble, I get to the station, and then they say, "Okay, we got you booked on the Chargers plane, their charter flight. You're going to sit in the back of the plane with the Chargers." I go, "Okay." So I'm there with John Weisbarth, who was a reporter that I was going to be working with. Very nice guy. And they put us in the back of the plane with all the Charger girls, all the cheerleaders. They're the Charger girls. So we fly to Phoenix. Oh, by the way, if you ever travel with an NFL team, it's really interesting, because we met at a hotel and they drove us to North Island Air Station where we flew out of. Well, they put us on these 3 big buses to drive us there, and they had a police escort, and they stopped traffic. Our buses never stopped. We drove all the way from Del Mar to North Island, no stopping at all. It was, they had all these police cars and police motorcycles that stopped traffic, and we drove through. So then we get to Phoenix, and it's the same thing. We went from the airport, we took buses to the hotel where the Chargers were going to be until game time. And they put us on the bus with the Charger girls. And then we got to the stadium, and the stadium really isn't designed for professional football. It's a college stadium. And so the sidelines are really small. The sideline goes from there, and then the stands start literally there, so there's only this much room between the sideline and the stands. So we were really crammed in with the Charger girls that whole day, that whole game. And then, of course, we had to take the bus back to the airport with, guess who? Charger girls. And we were sitting on the waiting for the plane, and we're sitting there in this bus, and we had nothing to do for a while, so they did a fashion show for us, and they sang for us, and all this stuff on the bus. So anyway, after all that, I got this picture with the Charger girls, but essentially it's me on a runway with a lot of generic pretty girls who I'd never met before and don't know. So I got a picture of exactly what I had put pictures on. So my point is, be really clear about what you want. Because I actually, in these cases, I got exactly what I asked for. But it was not what I really wanted. And it was cool to travel around with the Charger girls. That was fun. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be on the red carpet runway holding my national Emmy. All right?